Yes!
In Season 5 of Destiny 2, most specifically the Crucible, pulse rifles in a pretty good spot, and a decent amount of them are actually found in almost everybody's loadouts. When the Forsaken expansion first released, the Bygones reigned supreme in PvP, alongside the likes of the Go Figure and the right side of Ron to a lesser extent. The Blast Furnace stepped up to the plate as well, so it's incredibly unlikely that you won't see 2 or 3 of these in a game of Crucible. If you're lucky enough to roll a Blast Furnace or Bygones with Kill Clip or Rampage, you can reliably 2-burst opponents to the point where it's literally effortless. Back in D1, pulse rifles could roll a perk known as Reactive Reload, which is known as Kill Clip in D2, but that was swiftly revoked the moment that a weapon known as the Hopscotch Pilgrim reigned terror in the Crucible. The Hopscotch Pilgrim was a pulse rifle in D1's equivalent to D2's high impact 340 RPM class, and it could roll Feeding Frenzy and Reactive Reload, enabling it to easily 2-burst, and under the right conditions, it could 1-burst. It was insane. Insane enough that Bungie nerfed this weapon into the ground by moving it to a completely different archetype. It went from a 340 RPM to a 390 RPM, and Reactive Reload was removed as one of the perks able to roll on pulse rifles. So if you're currently a D2 player who played D1 during the Hopscotch Pilgrim meta, it's probably still mind-boggling that pulse rifles are able to roll Rampage and Kill Clip in Destiny 2. Now when it comes to pulse rifles, I've never been a fan of the slower firing, higher damage types, so weapons like the Bygones or Go Figure have never been something that I gravitated towards for PvP. Back in year 1 of D2, I loved the 450 and 540 RPM archetypes of pulse rifles, and I would be commonly seen using a Nightshade, Nurgle, the Time Worn Spire, my hands down favorite pulse rifle, the Darkest Before from Trials. The Darkest Before was a 540 RPM pulse, and that's when I found out what my favorite pulse rifle archetype was. I remember back when Forsaken first came out, I was going through the pulse rifle tab in the collections looking for every pulse rifle in a 540 RPM archetype, and I stumbled upon the Iron Banner's Claws of the Wolf and the Nightfall exclusive reward from the Corrupted Strike known as the Horror's Lease. My goal was to see if either one of these weapons would live up to the standard that the Darkest Before has set so high for me as a pulse rifle advocate. I grinded the Corrupted Nightfall a couple of times when it was available, but I never got a viable role for the Horror's League, so I just said forget it. My dream role would get here when it's good and ready. But I'll never forget, it was November 2nd of 2018, and I was power farming for this weapon to get the curated role when all of a sudden this beauty dropped for me. My Horror's League rolled with ricochet rounds, rangefinder, and kill clip. And the second that this weapon dropped at the end of the Corrupted Nightfall, I instantly knew that it would be my new favorite pulse rifle for PvP, and I also knew that it would surpass the Darkest Before by a long shot. I was really eager to use another 540 RPM pulse because this archetype didn't get the shine it deserved in year 1 of D2, and the slow time to kill was almost entirely responsible for that. I brought up the Hopscotch Pilgrim and the nightmares that it gave people in D1, but I didn't mention the Clever Dragon, which was an Iron Banner pulse rifle in the same archetype as the Darkest Before and the Horror's Lease. If you want around to witness the smackdown that the Clever Dragon was laying down, you could probably assume what ended up happening to this weapon in this entire archetype. Yep, it got a big fat nerf, which is almost the same severity as what happened to the Hopscotch Pilgrim. The Clever Dragon's reign in the Crucible was short-lived, so when Destiny 2 came out, this archetype was one that I was very anticipated to use again. But getting back to it, there's a reason why you don't hear anybody going crazy about the 540 RPM pulse rifles like I do. First off, there's a huge skill ceiling for pulse rifles like the Horror's Lease. The 540 RPM pulses shoot incredibly fast, and they don't have the fastest body shot TTK, so you're severely punished if you're not hitting crits. The optimal time to kill is 0.80 seconds, which is one of the best times to kill in the game, but this class of pulse rifle has some of the craziest recoil, so without a counterbalance mod, you're going to have a hard time taming the recoil. When you compare the 540s to the Bygones, the Vigilance Wing, Blast Furnace, and whatnot, you'll quickly realize that the slower a pulse rifle is, the harder it hits and the easier it is to control, and all these factors make the slower rate of fire pulse rifles a lot more forgiving and create an ease of use factor that's hard to pass up. Realistically, you would be almost crazy to use a faster firing pulse rifle in this meta, and if you did assume that, I wouldn't be able to tell you that you're wrong. But I have to be honest, in PvP, the slower rate of fire pulse rifles are just about as deadly as a wet spaghetti noodle in my hands. I can't use them. I've tried to, but I can't get accustomed to the slower rate of fire, so I end up losing a lot of my gunfights because I always pull the trigger faster than the weapon can shoot. And I know for a fact when I kill somebody with the Horror's Lease in PvP, it always catches them by surprise because it's a weapon that nobody uses in the Crucible. Nonetheless, I only find it possible to perform at my best when I use what I'm accustomed to and what I enjoy using, not what everybody else is using and or doing. The Horror's Lease and other members of his respective family are masters at the close range game. So when it comes to this weapon at close range, the only thing that'll be able to compete with you are hand cannons or auto rifles. If you're lucky enough to roll kill clip on a horse leash like I did, you'll be dropping enemy players left and right with almost no effort, leaving everybody on the receiving end of this thing with little to no time to react. You won't be too bursting people like a Bygones with kill clip, but provided that you hit those crits, you'll be completely unstoppable. One thing I can say is that it feels good to be a part of a minority. I'm definitely one of the few people who uses this weapon in the Crucible, and it goes to show you that you can still put in work in PvP without adhering to the meta. If you're a post rifle advocate like me, and you're impressed with how quickly I'm dropping people with this weapon, I suggest grinding the corrupted nightfall as many times as possible before this week is over, and give this weapon a spin. At the time this video is being uploaded, it's January 11th, 2019, and the corrupted strike hasn't been in the nightfall rotation since last November when I got this weapon to drop for me. So if I were you, I would definitely take advantage of it while it's here. But anyways, that does it for this one, everybody. If you enjoyed this video, drop me a like. If you're new to my neck of the woods, subscribe to the channel for more elite gaming content. But with that being said, 1L HD is over and out. Y'all take it easy.
Yes!